One of the other problems that we might want to solve is the amount of noise in the particles at the base of the torch. If we want to thicken up this area here and really brighten it up and kind of fill in these gaps, one of the ways we can do this is to go back into the ice tree. So if I press Alt-9, I can modulate the size over the age percentage. If you look at the size on the emit from surface compound, we have a size of 0.01. I want to actually use that size for the particles at the end and in the middle of their life, but I want the particles to be a little larger early on. So if I look under the size category of tools, under the modifiers particle, I'll find the modify particle size compound, and I'll plug it into an available port on my ice tree. So I'll just make some room for it. And I'll execute it into port 3. So initially the particles aren't going to change because with ice you need to simulate back from frame 0, but I can set up the compound so that it will work closer to the effect I'm going to need. We want to use the age percentage to drive the size, so I'll take the source parameter and make sure that I'm using age percentage. Now I want to make sure that particles at birth are larger than particles at the end of their life, so I'm going to swap out the positions of these two attributes. So I'll move this up to a value of 100%, or roughly therein, and do the same thing with this value here, except I'm going to move it down close to a value of 0, but not quite. In fact, in this case, what I'm doing is increasing the contrast between particles at birth and particles at death. So I want particles at birth to have a size of maybe 0.02. So with my multiplier, I'm going to have my multiplier set at 0.02. And if I want my particles to have a size of 0.01 at their death, then 0.02 times 0.5 will give me that. So I'll actually have to raise the end value to say 50%. So I have less contrast between the particles. If I press play, again, it's going to play very slowly just because of the nature of how I'm recording. I'm going to let the particles emit all the way up to about frame 32 or so. And let's just give it a few more frames. And we'll stop the render, or stop the progression of frames. Undo that. Draw a render region. Minimize. And the result should be a thicker base for our flames without losing any of the detail in the earlier particles. Now if we get too much intensity early on, I can always use the function curve to ramp off the size fairly quickly. If you remember, early on in our particle size, in our particle effect, we actually had these nice long thin runs of hot white particles combining with the orange and yellow, but the size is a little bit too large right now, so we're muddying up the nice effect we had down low. So what I can do to compensate for that, and I'll actually just go to my region tool, I'll turn auto refresh off so it can't update automatically, is if I grab this first keyframe, I'll just use the handles, the tangency, to ramp off the size immediately after birth. So if I actually just get rid of this, I'm going to have to resimulate again. So I'll try that. I'll move back to frame 0 and try and get another look at my render region.